Hey guys, it's me Jocelyn. So today I just thought I'd do a video on tips for beginner editors. So let's just get started. So first things first, you want to make sure that you know or have somewhat knowledge of what keyframes are. If you don't know, that's completely fine. That's exactly what I'm teaching you. So a keyframe is this little diamond thing right here. It's shaped like diamonds on pretty much any editing thing you're going to use, except Video Star. I haven't quite remembered what it's shaped like, but I'll put it here in the video. Anyways, most keyframes are diamond shaped, and they are used to start and end your transitions. So more than likely, you're going to need to use 2 keyframes for every transition that you do, one at the beginning and one at the end. So I'll show you an example for a spin right here. If I add a keyframe at the beginning right here, that's going to start the transition. The first half of the transition, that's going to start it. And if I go to the end of my photo here, and I add on another keyframe, and this time I want to spin it. So the second keyframe is always where your transition will start moving. You know what I mean? So like if I do -90 or something like that, obviously you're going to see it's moving. Now, does it look super smooth right now? No, but that's because you need to add on a graph, which we'll get into later. So what I do is I hold down my keyframe just to make sure that it moves the way I end my photo. That's optional. If you like the look of it not being there, you can keep it, honestly. So let me go to my second photo and show you how to end a keyframe transition. So say you're on the spin category again, and then you add on another keyframe right here. That will be the second half of your transition. So this will be the half that's finishing off your transition. So since we did -90 the first time, how about we do +90 this time on this keyframe? So you're always going to want to make it opposite measures of what you did the first time. So since I did -90 for the first half of my transition, I'm going to do +90 for the second half of my transition. Or like if I slid a photo up in my first half, I'm going to slide it down in the second half to complete the transition. A lot of people get confused about this. I did too. I remember I had no idea what I was doing, but it is super simple once you get the hang of it. So now, as you can see, I added on a keyframe, my first keyframe on my second photo. I changed it to 90. Now, as you can see, it's not moving at all. That's because you have to add a second one at the very end. So just tap it and that'll add a second one. But you have to make sure to switch your measures down back to 0. So as you can see, it has completed the transition. It's just a little bit slow and choppy. Will lead us into our next category, which is adding graphs. Graphs are super simple to use. I feel like people get them confused because they're like a little weird. Like we don't know what they do. What are they supposed to do? Graphs essentially make your photo or your clip smooth and then make it go fast. Let me show you. This is what the spin would look like without any graphs. As you can see, it's pretty slow. Now, if I add on a graph, which by the way, I'm on Alight Motion showing you how to do this. I know a lot of different editing apps have a lot of different ways to do this, so if you guys want to help some people out in the comments, you're free to do that. In Alight Motion, the way you add a graph on is you have to go in between the keyframes. If you are on a keyframe like this and your keyframe's highlighted green and you tap on the graphs, you can't move them. So what you have to do is you have to go in between the keyframes. Now, how you add on a graph in the first place is make sure you're in between the keyframes and hit this little graph thing right here, and now you're on it. So thankfully, Alight Motion has default graphs made for you if you don't feel like making your own. So even just adding this graph on right here makes a huge difference in the speed of the spin. I'm going to show you how to do a pretty much basic graph that I use on all my Alight Motion edits, unless I'm doing a specific type of transition. So what I do is I pull this right here, this little dot, and I pull it to right about here. And it doesn't have to be exact, okay? I know a lot of people like to be perfectionists on their first edit. There's no need to, okay? And then on this second one, I just pull it right here. As you can see, look at how much faster the spin goes. It starts off a little slow and then goes super fast at the end. Now, go on to your second clip, and you add on a graph again. Remember to go in between those keyframes, tap on the graph thing right here, and you can use Alight Motion's default out graph. Even that makes a huge difference in the speed, but I'm going to show you the one that I use. I just pulled this one right here, and I pulled the second dot right here. And as you can see, that makes a huge difference in how fast the transition is and how smooth the transition is. Which now leads us into our next category, motion blur. Now, motion blur comes in all different types of forms. It can be added by using tiles or on After Effects, I know it can be added by using motion tile. So I'm just going to show you Alight Motion's example. There's 2 of them. You can add on tiles and motion blur. So what you want to do is you want to tap on your photo and go to effects and add effect. And right up here probably you'll see tiles, so you just want to add that on. And then you want to hit mirror, okay? Now your photo's mirrored, so as you can see the white is no longer there. The white background's no longer there. It's mirrored the photo. Now if you add effect again and you go to the blur category and you add on motion blur, then that automatically adds it for you. It makes it a lot smoother. As you can see, once it's spinning, it has blur added this time. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the exact same thing to my second clip. I'm going to add on the tiles again, and I'm going to add on the motion blur again. Realize the only thing I did for the tiles was hit mirror on them. I didn't change any other settings, I just added them on and hit mirror. That's a super important tip that I like to give people because I was really confused on what tiles were at first, but it's so easy because all you do is hit one button. And motion blur, you just add it on. If you want to change it, you can, but I always just leave it at default. And as you can see, it becomes a lot quicker and smoother. It might look a little laggy right now, but once you go ahead and save it, it's going to look super smooth. This is what it'll end up looking like. Super smooth and kind of fast and efficient, honestly. Which now leads to my next category, I guess, which is Instagram and TikTok or Twitter. You have to use hashtags. Like, there's no way you're going to get views if you don't use a hashtag for what you are editing. Say you're editing a TV show and a certain person from the TV show. You're gonna want to add a hashtag of their name and the TV show and maybe like so-and-so's name edit or something like that. Like, use like Steve Harrington from Stranger Things, for example. If I was gonna make an edit, I would put hashtag Stranger Things and then add another hashtag and say hashtag Steve Harrington and then another one, hashtag Steve Harrington edit. And it's also helpful to put hashtag and then the celebrity's name sometimes because that will also attract in a different crowd as well. This especially works on TikTok. You can have I've seen accounts go from 0 followers and have over like 2,000 in 1 week just from using the hashtags because it also kind of depends on how many people are interested in the person you're editing or the thing you're editing. Now, obviously, everybody's going to be interested in a lot of different things, but I guarantee you there will be a group of people interested in what you're editing in because it's literally existing in the world. And I guarantee other people will know it. So it's just like one of my biggest things for like gaining traction and getting people to notice your account because it can be kind of sad and kind of defeating to not know anyone seeing your account. Do you know what I mean? Like, you put so much time into edits and no one's seeing it. So that's a great way to grow some followers and grow some like traction on your account. Now, my next tip is don't do it for the likes. Now, this isn't contradicting my last one because the last one was kind of like to build like some like you need a few followers, you know what I mean? But don't edit solely for the likes and views. The amount of people I've seen that have just started editing for likes and views is literally insane because you're not doing it for fun, you're doing it solely for like the number count. And it's kind of sad. I remember I let likes and views get to me at one point and I hated it so much. So now I just edit whatever I want whenever I want and I'm good with whatever number I get because I honestly don't care what number I get. And that's the mindset you want to go into having this. Especially if you're a beginner editor, you're not going to have 1 million followers at first. Nobody does. So that's just like a little tip I wanted to put in there because nobody is going to have 1 million followers in one day. So don't do it solely for the likes and views. Also, like, if you get likes and views, that's a great thing. You shouldn't feel ashamed for having them. Just don't let them get to you and don't keep editing for that sole purpose of the number count. This is more of an advice. Every editing app is equal in my opinion. There's no app that's better than the other. Now, some people have this idea that After Effects, which is a computer program, is the most advanced you can get, and that's just like really not true because I've seen so many better edits than people made on After Effects on like phones. And that isn't me putting down After Effects, I'm just saying. There's no difference between any editing apps in my opinion. You start where you start and you shouldn't be ashamed of that. I recommend not starting on After Effects only because it's very complicated, especially if you don't know what anything means or is. So, yeah. So just don't feel ashamed of what editing app you use. People try to put down people who use CapCut and stuff, and I'm just a little shocked by that because I've seen insane CapCut edits. So don't feel like put down if someone tells you your app's bad because it's not. And even if you use an app that makes an edit for you at first, I did that, and now look where I am. It doesn't matter where you start. Just feel good with what you're going. We'll grow, I promise. And now, my last tip is we all start somewhere. You may start with a little bit of knowledge of what editing is, and you may start with none. Personally, I started with none and it was kind of a rough journey, but now editing has grown into such a huge thing that there are millions of tutorials on the internet for you to use. So you will probably have a little bit of an easier time starting. And if you don't, that's completely fine. It takes time. Some people get it in 2 days, some people get it in 2 years. It can be a little bit complicated for people, but you will learn, I promise. Especially with the tutorials these days, you're probably going to learn super fast, faster than most of us did back in like 2018 and whatnot. And yeah, that was my beginner tips for editors. I wanted to make this video to help you guys out because I have realized that during summertime a lot more people come into editing as a hobby, so I wanted to give this to them just to like make them feel a little bit better. So yeah, that was it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and comment down below any tutorial requests you guys may have. And yeah, I love you guys so much, and yeah, bye.